I am buying this stock in September. I'm going to show you in this video 4 ways how this business can win as both a business and an investment, including potentially becoming an OnlyFans competitor. So let's jump right into it. What's going on, everybody? My name is Matthew, and today I'm going to be talking about PLBY Group, ticker PLBY. Yes, this company is formerly known as PLBY, but trust me when I say that this is a very different business today than it was many years ago. They actually discontinued the print magazine in 2020. They're rebranding to more body positivity and really just taking advantage of being one of the most recognizable brands in the world. The stock has actually been beaten down over 50% from recent highs. So we're talking back in, I believe, May, all the way down to the price today, closing down 56% from its recent high of somewhere around $63. So this company is definitely much cheaper than it was before. I think I originally was buying over here in the low 40s in my first initial buy, and then I bought maybe in the low 30s down here, and it kept dropping further. And I wanted to wait for a sign that it could be potentially finding a bottom. And based in a technical sense, I think the bottom may be in on this one. But again, I'm a long-term investor first and foremost, so short-term predictions are never really my specialty. But again, I just started buying again in this $26 range. I actually bought some more even today. So for the sake of full transparency, I do want to show you my position in my portfolio. This is my portfolio. This represents the majority of my money invested in the stock market. I don't have like a bunch of other secret portfolios that are worth way more. And PLBY, as you can see, is my smallest position. So I do want to make that really clear because it is more speculative. It is more of a guessing game on what are the odds that management will be able to execute over the coming years on all of these plans that do sound and seem really strong. Now, we're not just guessing and hoping for the best. We're obviously making an educated guess. But that being said, it's still a 2% position in my portfolio, and I'm down about 32% with an average cost of $40 per share. And I'll probably continue to buy this until it's about 3% of my portfolio, because when I originally bought it and first called it out on YouTube, I tried to make it as clear as possible. This is a very risky stock because of the current price it was trading at, which I think was like in the mid 40s. And as you can see, it was indeed very risky because it dropped by about 50%. So now I'm coming back in to average down and continue to buy this stock for the long term because I think it is obviously much cheaper. Now, let's get into the 4 ways that this business could win and generate great returns for its investors. So the first one's the most exciting one probably, and it was actually brought to my attention by this gentleman here, Alad, and that is, as recently as 1 week ago, PLBY posted a job description kind of open application on LinkedIn for a UX UI designer for a creator-driven platform. And I quote, along the lines right here, thinking along the lines of OnlyFans and Patreon. This could be the beginning stages of a massive opportunity, an OnlyFans-esque platform created by PLBY or PLBY Group today, who again has one of the most iconic brands in the world in this niche, and countless access to countless talent and connections also in this niche. Now, in August, to give you an idea of what this could potentially become, in August, OnlyFans was expected to raise new funding at a $1 billion valuation. Meanwhile, I'll remind you that PLBY is trading at a valuation of $1.1 billion. So the fact that, this could be what's in store for PLBY if they're able to execute on this idea several years down the road, that is really encouraging for the long-term investors. And in my opinion, it's much easier for PLBY to create an OnlyFans-esque competitor and become a really large platform than it is for OnlyFans to create sexual wellness lines, decades of content and memorabilia, a global consumer goods business with a global infrastructure, and direct-to-consumer business model. Right? I mean, I guess they are technically direct-to-consumer right now, but definitely stay tuned for updates on this part of the development for PLBY Group. Now, next are 2 main points, the more kind of the points that were earlier when I first invested. These are 2 main points of the bullish thesis for many PLBY investors, which are much more realistic and immediate than this previous first point. And that is the renegotiating of PLBY's licensing deals and their expansion into India. So first we'll look at the licensing. Right now, PLBY is doing about $3 billion in licensing sales worldwide, but only taking home about $61 million of that, and that's what's reaching their income statement, which means that they're getting about a 2% take rate on that $3 billion in licensing sales. And for the industry, that is really, really bad. The average rate, especially for a brand of this stature, which is, again, one of the most recognizable brands in the world, will be closer to 7 to 8%, if not much more. So as we can tell, Hugh Hefner, when he was leading PLBY, or back then Playboy, he seemed to have negotiated some poor licensing deals, which are still kind of haunting PLBY to this day. But as those contracts and terms expire and are able to be renegotiated, we could see at least 6% in terms of licensing, maybe 8 or 10%. And if we increase the average to 6% for PLBY, that's a 3x on their average licensing take rate today. So this is a very simple and achievable way to add significant revenue and income to the business. Now, next is our recent move into India, and the Playboy CEO believes, PLBY Group, sorry, I keep mixing them up, same company though, believes India could become as big of a market as China is for PLBY. And China did about 1.5 billion in sales, I believe, for PLBY. Their most recent move was a joint venture with JJ Capital, where they will be opening their first Playboy Cafe and Playboy Beer Garden. And this is their first step to be expanding to all the major metros in India. But I don't think they're only going to do like kind of brick and mortar stuff like this. They're also going to be selling a lot of clothing and apparel and consumer goods. And finally, the fourth way for this business to win is their conversion to a direct-to-consumer business model, or DTC, which is quite literally what it sounds like. It's the business selling directly to consumers instead of doing something like licensing, where they have someone else do the selling and they just take kind of a commission or take rate. So it has a lot of different benefits, as you can see here. And one that is not mentioned in this specific article is actually the potential for higher margins for PLBY, along with what's mentioned here: control over brand engagement and reputation, consistent omnichannel DTC marketing. Omnichannel just means like from a bunch of different directions, a bunch of different ways, and deeper user research, alignment with modern consumer expectations, all that good stuff. So as of late, they've been making waves via acquisitions of strong direct-to-consumer brands. So they took on Yandy.com, they took on Lover. Both have been great, especially Yandy and what they've been able to do with that company. But most recently, the team at PLBY Group, and their specialty is partially in mergers and acquisitions, they most recently acquired Honey Birdette. The acquisition of 100% of the equity, right here. The acquisition of 100% of the equity of Honey Birdette was completed for consideration of $235 million in cash and 2.16 million shares of PLBY Group stock. Honey Birdette generated $71 million in revenue and 17.6 million of net income for the 12 months ended June 30th, 2021. And this is what's incredible, representing growth of over 42% and 187% respectively over the prior year period. So I believe that means their revenue grew 40% year over year, and their income, their net income, grew 187% year over year. So this is a pretty incredible business. It's already profitable. It's growing very quickly. So another great addition to the PLBY group. And this acquisition will also give them access to 60 physical stores, primarily located in Australia, with a few in the US and the UK. And they'll also be able to add this to their global infrastructure that they're trying to build out as well. And this acquisition came soon after PLBY also took advantage of their higher stock price in the $40 range background over here. And they were able to raise a lot of cash that they then put to use, I assume, into this deal. And they also increased the flow of the stock to make it a bit less volatile. So you can see actually, it's trading, the candles are a bit smaller compared to over here. And if we zoom out, the candles are huge, very, very volatile stock because the float was so low. And after the offering, we see the float or the volatility start to calm down a bit because there's more shares now on the market. And lastly, Ben Cohen, the CEO, was talking about their recent acquisition and saying, with this company growing 40% year over year, down here, he said, as a brand, I previously stated that long term, this could be a $1 billion in revenue business. And again, I remind you, PLBY is trading at a $1.1 billion valuation today. So, talk is cheap. Anyone can say something like this, and they can obviously promise the world to you, but With that said, PLBY's management team has been either delivering or blowing away expectations. Their most recent quarterly report was a big miss on EPS, but it was largely because of this acquisition, which is a one-time expense, obviously, and maybe the analysts just didn't see coming, and so obviously that's going to throw off their quarterly report. So I do want to reiterate that this is a 2 to 3% position in my portfolio. It's not a core position for me at this time. However, I do believe in it as a long-term investment at this moment. If you want to join investor community, make sure to check that out down below. You can see every single one of my trades, 24/7 access to my portfolio, as well as weekly live lessons to learn how to invest from people within the investment industry. And they've been our mentors have outperformed the market pretty consistently over the past 5 years. So check that out down below. If you found any value in this video, and I hope you did, please make sure to hit that like button, subscribe, and check out our quote of the day. You might just learn something. If you're watching at this point in the video, you are the real MVP. Oops, I hit the mic. Don't forget your peace and thank yous.